there, people! Very simple one today. Just want to get something out there, just to say it was out there. Basically, today we're going to be checking out Blood 0.1, which is basically a ridiculously simple Quake C hack that makes the game a little bloodier. So yeah, it's basically a gore patch, that's all it really is. Just makes the game slightly more violent, because that's a thing! Yes, why not? You know, why not just have a little bit extra blood, because blood games equals awesomeness for some reason. So yeah, it's kind of like that, it's basically like the precursor to Brutal Doom, like, 22 years before, like, Brutal Doom and all that. So, yeah, basically, you can see back in 1996 even, we were having extremism blood mods, so I think that was for even around like the days of Doom. So, yeah, it even goes back further than this, and here's basically one for Quake. As said, it's a very minor edit of weapons.qc, which basically means that more blood's generated when monsters or you get shot. It basically makes it look a little cooler, apparently. Yeah, if you try and use rockets, grenades, lightning, any of that, you don't even, like, do anything different. It's basically just for, like, shotgun, hit scan based stuff, all that. Anything which would cause regular blood, to be shown, now is supposed to be a bit more extreme. So I guess we'll see exactly what they mean. Like I said, it's a very, very minor change. It's probably one of the smallest little details of the world, but, it's a thing. It's a file on this thing. So therefore, for completionism's sake, here we are. Yeah, and plus, like I said, this is also another Quake C file, which is rather significant because we haven't really touched upon too many of them. Now, it seems like, as I'm playing more of these, it looks like they're changing around specific files, which get just stored inside your directory. Basically, you need to, like, compile Quake C, and yeah, basically, he couldn't get the thing to compile just one QC without having to compile about the whole thing, which makes it about half a meg. Yeah, he has, like, very small, like, weak computer, all that. So anyway, how in God's name do you compile a QC file? That's actually an interesting question. Because, yeah, basically you have your QC files. All those get put together to make progs.dat. And basically that's what outputs to basically create the file that you end up using. Progs.dat is like the final file. And basically what you want to do when you're basically working about this is to take all the different QC files that are in your directories, put them together, and you get your progs.dat fully flowing together and designed basically for actual gameplay. Now, the program to compile QC is actually an interesting one. Yeah, that's actually a good question. I don't really know how to compile a QC file. You know, that's kind of a little interesting thing. I don't have a file on hand that allows me to do that. Yeah, I'm not really sure what exactly, like, I have a lot of Aftershock tools. Does one of these just happen to conveniently allow me to compile? I mean, I have plenty of them. You know, I have plenty of tools on here. I've, like, documented them all. Does any of them, I mean, any at all, allow for actual usability? Decompiles and recompiles QC programs. Okay, deac and react, but it fails to work properly because it's in French. Well, that's useful. I'm glad that we found that one. Let's see here. What else is there that even... Aha, QC compiler. Compiles them together to create a modified prog.dat. And isn't it good that I documented all this stuff? Because, as you see, it saved me today. Okay, now we gotta just find the program. I'm looking for... What's it called? QC compiler! Amazing name! Who would have guessed that one? Yeah, I never would have guessed the name was QC compiler. That's just a fascinating name right there, people. Let's see here. Where in God's name is this? It must have been somewhere. I had it. I had it on my computer. I've obviously gone through it. I just gotta find the... Oh, I think I see where it is. It's this thing. QC DOS, I'm assuming? It's just this random one DOS file. I'm not really sure, but I'm gonna guess it is. So see what exactly happens. For science and all that, there's no, like, documentation or anything with this one. Bloody display thing makes it difficult. So, you'll actually get to see me try and compile this thing and try and learn exactly how to bloody do this. But like I said, it's kind of important for the future. If we're ever going to like merge these files together and make like our own server and have like all these different files, I'm going to have to learn how to like compile this stuff so that way I can modify it as needed. Because as you see, we have like all these different files that have like all these different portions of them, and like half the portions stink, but there are also good portions. And so learning how to compile it is a pretty useful tool. So it's a rather big pain in the butt right now, but if I can figure it out, it'll be... Hooray, error messages! That's not really what I need at the moment, no. This isn't what I need. Come on, game. Error messages. Okay. I gotta work with this, people, so bear with me as I try and figure out what in God's name's going on. Yeah, this is probably a bad idea. But like I said, error open progs.src. You know, I'm not even sure if this is the file I was looking for. You know, that's kind of part of the problem. Let's actually, like, try and load up, like... You know, I could load up... I'll load up some of the README files and see if, like, I could actually see in here what exactly, like, the different things are. That will tell me right here. QC compiler. Yep, this is the one I'm looking for. So that is. So, alright. And... this is located under... yeah, graphics.qc. So it was... I'm in the right area. I have the right file. But now I have to figure out how to make this thing work. And that's part of the problem. I don't know how to make this thing work. I'm looking for progs.src. I know what progs.dat is, but what's progs.src? That's rather interesting, people. What in God's name is progs.src? Oh God, what in God's name is progs.src? That doesn't make any sense. I mean, that's a rather weird one. Like I said, there's a progs.dat. There's a data file in Quake called progs.dat. But there's no progs.src. So, yeah. Let's see here. Is there another one or something like that? Something that make this a little bit easier? There's usually like multiple files or something like that. But yeah, I'm going to need a... either find where this progs.src is, or I'm going to need another file. Plenty of different stuff, but nothing that's really going to like give me progs.dat and src, all that. Yeah, no. There doesn't seem to be anything else that really helps me in this particular case. You know, like I said, React and Deact should do it, but it doesn't work right at all. So, yeah, how in God's name do you get progs.src? Well, if I look at GitHub, it looks like I can actually find the file. So, I'm guessing this is like the Quake C code? I'm really confused about all this. Let's see here. How exactly does one save a file from GitHub? I'm trying to learn a lot today. You would think, like, take the raw file, but doesn't that just use, like, a notepad file? Can I, like, just save the link as, like, an src file? How does one just, like, save the src? Like, if I do this, does this save as an src file? It looks like it did. Okay, so I'm going to assume that I just took the raw file from Pastebin, which I'm assuming is going to be the same. I have no idea if it's the same or not. Like, yeah, this is the problem. We're trying to use John Carmack's junk that he uploaded. Because all of the Quake code stuff wasn't brought with the actual official game. It was brought afterwards as a thing released online. Which is absolutely a terrible idea. Why wasn't it just released to the game if they're going to release it like a few months later? I mean, I understand, you know, not wanting to modify it, but you just released it for free. Is that even worse? Shouldn't you have, like, included the stuff with the game itself? You know, you'd think that would have been a smarter move on their part, but, yeah, no use, like, playing Captain Hindsight, I guess. Let's try and get this thing bloody working. Okay, no, error open at defs.qc. Oh, great. I got progs.src, but now there's a... How many are there? Why are they doing this to me? Yeah, it looks like I'm gonna have to like rip all these different files. How does like... Is there like a Quake C files like area I could download the Quake C files? Okay, it looks like if I go on mod database, it looks like we actually have a much better one. Basically, we have a version 1.06, original Quake C with all compiler warnings fixed. Basically, yeah, hopefully this is what it says it is. And therefore, we can actually not have a headache. You know, like I said, it's a pain in the butt. We have to even download this off the internet. Especially since, you know, with an Aftershocks tool set, you would think one of the Aftershock tools would give us, you know, the Quake code. You know, that would kind of be beneficial to store on the CD, the code for Quake. You know, it does everything else but that. You know, the one important thing. So, alright. Now I got that. And now I'm going to load it in there and hope for the best, even though these files say they were modified in 2005 for some reason, which I really do not like. That's going to bug me to no end. Like, yeah, that's not really helping the situation, though, is it? So anyway, what I've done is I've got a bunch of Quake C files. A lot of Quake C files. And now if I try to load up this godforsaken thing, hopefully... we get somewhere. Okay, it looks like we are. Look at this. Well, actually, I don't think you guys can see anything because it's loaded too quickly. Okay, there we are. Look at that. Look at all those words. I don't know what I just did. I have no idea what I just did, people. I really don't. Oh, God. This is not really helping me, is it? No, not really. I don't think I made things better for me. I think I made them worse. You know what I should do? Maybe I should store this in like a separate folder. I got an idea. Yeah, let's store all this in a separate folder to not overcomplicate it. And I just messed things up further. Wow, I'm really doing great today. Let's see here. We want to like clear out the QC files, I guess. Yeah, so now I need to clean up all these QC files that I mistakenly put in here that I really don't want to have burying everything else. This is all a horrible idea. Why in God's name did I do this? And patch.dat is like the file that's like outputted. Or where is that? I don't know! Okay, let's see here. We're going to just get rid of the QC files. Easiest, simplest way without causing any damage. And I don't want to cause damage. Like, it really doesn't matter what my directory looks like. I just kind of want it somewhat clean so I'm not having to like fish through 1,500 files. Okay, so now what I want to do is create a separate folder for all this stuff. Because this is what I should have done to begin with. QC it. What I'm going to do now is simply put all these files in here. Good. Amazing. We did stuff. Now, we need to take our QC DOS program, and we're going to put that in there as well. Now, I have no idea what in God's name I'm doing, because I haven't even actually like loaded anything else. I'm assuming what I need to do is modify one of the QC files. Okay, yeah, I think I see exactly what's going to need to go on. You need to, basically now it's going to like dig through it and output it into a progs.dat file. What you're going to need to want to do is you're going to want to modify one of these files, and it will basically, when it compiles it together, this could basically compile it into a vanilla one, but you could also do it for whatever you wanted. So basically I could make it have like a Multiskin support and all that without anything else. So yeah, let's see here. So let's try and do all this, see if like there's anything at all that I need to care about. So I did that. That created the progs.dat file. Okay, yeah, that seems to actually have worked perfectly fine. So I'm going to assume this is the strategy here, and that's basically what you're supposed to do. Then you take the progs.dat and you move it to where you want it. Now this one just was a vanilla file. This still doesn't actually really do anything. Now what I want to do, because if I try and do this on blood file directly, I'm not going to recognize it at all. what I actually want to do is not load that, but what I want to do is load up Multiskin support. I want to basically load up this, basically replace it with weapons.dat. And yeah, we're basically going to try and compile this thing out. Where am I going? Not compile. Compile is a totally different thing. There's way too many folders. But yeah, QC. From QC, I basically want to replace weapons.qc with this one. This one that's basically going to give me multi-skin support, basically. So we're going to replace weapons.qc. This is supposed to basically output that. Doesn't really matter anything else. Can't open swap file. I don't think we care about that because it outputs it perfectly fine. I don't even know what a swap file is. So I don't think that really matters too much because of that. So I'm going to assume is that now it's working. We've just wrote out a progs.dat. If I look at my progs.dat file, I want to look at it before anything else. I can see already I'm seeing like Mr. Toad, the Stormtrooper, all that, which is brilliant because that means multi-skin support. So what I want to do with this file is I want to put it in my stripper area. Weapons.qc isn't going to be recognized at all, so there's not going to be anything changed on blood-wise. Oh wait, I just accidentally loaded up my QC again. I forgot I still have it like on DOSBots, and because I can only load one bloody thing at a time, that's not exactly fun, but luckily I have the ability to swap back and forth between all my different programs. This is one reason why it'll be convenient to get off of DOSBots, so I don't have to like mess around with like trying to swap around directories like this. I can just like load up a program, you know. It's much easier loading up a simple program than trying to swap around things in DOSBots. It's not too complicated, but it is another hassle. You know, that just doesn't need to be there. Anyway, doesn't really matter, I just care about, so you see, it actually tried loading up the sound files, but it didn't recognize them. That's actually important because I deleted everything besides my modified progs.dat. So already you can see that is the case. Now, last time when we tried doing this basically I did my sound files, I didn't have multi-skin support because that requires you to modify the weapons.dat with another one, which we couldn't compile at the time. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to modify my bind my G to impulse 200. Impulse 200 it. G impulse isn't a bind value key. Oh wait, we needed a space. Gotta love how like content sensitive it is. But yeah, we're gonna bind that to that and bind H to impulse 201. It really doesn't matter too much, but we really just want to see. As you see, there we are. Multi-skin support from using QTalk. In fact, I could just have this with nothing else. So yeah, if you, basically I just found how to modify things around just to make my own custom files and basically make the server specifically the way I want it. So yeah, basically this is the ultimate tool. If you want your modified weapons, but you don't want like other modified weapons, if you want like a certain enemy in your maps, but you don't want anything else, this is the answer to everything, people. All you do is basically load up your QC compiler. You basically load in all the different files. I'm using that source thing that I had to like find on like the mod database area, which is a bit of pain. I had to like hunt that down, but you basically just store that in a directory. You basically let that program run. You load it up with a modified file. In particular, you modify the file as needed. Like I'd say I get rid of like the talk area, and I just keep the specific area, because the convenient thing about all this is that they usually comment things out. And if they don't, you can always hunt it down. It's a pain, but you could always like modify it bit by bit to get the results you're looking for. And that's the convenient thing about this. So yeah, then all you do is just say, okay, now you need to load up my modified progs.dat file. You, the person playing it, have it. You load it up in your like stripper game file, or whatever you want to call your mod. And now you conveniently got, you know, the ability to switch around multi-skins. All just because of this. Amazing, right? So, yeah, that's basically that. But of course, that's not really what we were here for today, was it? No, what we were here today for was to see some blood, and death, and violence. So yeah, let's actually get to that now that I actually, you know how to do this. You know, as I said, I basically had to manually do this file, so basically this has required a whole educational lesson on how to manually do QC files, as I didn't have the tools to basically do it on hand. And it worked as a good, convenient tutorial, so like I said, I'm definitely keeping all this in just as a useful tutorial on how exactly to get everything going. I didn't really hit any like bad ends or anything like that. We got everything working. It just took like a minute to get everything going. More like 20, but it still got it. Anyway, now we're going to just load it up. We have basically a modified weapons.qc with blood specifically. And like I said, you basically could rip like bits and pieces of these from everyone. I assume like if I go into weapons, that I'm going to find some area which is basically going to have like commented out like blood. Or if not, it basically is most likely under the section that's talking about blood that I'm already seeing. Like I'm already seeing an area that was talking about blood. So I'm assuming yes. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything else here. So I'm assuming basically what this is doing is this whole spawn blood with like larger numbers. So yeah, basically I could modify my files around. I could like examine what's exactly different here. There's probably like a way to compare like two notepad files and see like what the difference is between them. I know like you could do that easily in the Wikaya, so like I could probably just like test out there if I really needed to. Find out exactly what like the difference is between these two Quake C files and like end up resulting with like the final version, if you will, for like a server. Like I said, rather convenient, definitely, to have like this little way, because suddenly it makes all these mods have purpose. See, if you were to just take the progs.dat files, you can only have one. So basically, you can only have one person's mod at a time, unless you have some experience with being able to compile this stuff. So yeah, for those that find compiling a little daunting, it might be a little bit of a turnoff. But for those that do like compiling and the ability to actually control it, yeah, this could actually be quite the awesome thing, as you get the ability to tinker with and the ability to easily modify files around. It's very quick. As you can see here, I basically just loaded in 2 seconds that, and now I've just swapped it out for the blood file. And that's all it really takes to basically get what you want to get going. They usually, any mod offers usually with it the QC files, which makes it all the more beneficial. So, yeah. Wait, what? Oh wait, I didn't swap out my progs.dat. That's why. Yeah, I basically compiled it, but then I didn't swap it out. And if you don't swap it out, obviously it's going to play the old one. Okay, so all we're going to do is we're going to go in here, we're going to go back to my mods area, and we're just going to replace the one I have with the new one, which is basically progs.dat. So now basically all I have in my stripper folder at the moment is my config file, which automatically loads when I load it up. Basically just loads up as part of the mod. And other than that, basically my progs.dat. I also have the stuff from like the blood mod, which is basically the weapons.qc and the test file. But those aren't even needed in this folder. Really, you just need 2 files and you're basically off to go, because most things are just modified in the progs.dat. So yeah, very, very simple mod if you understand what you're doing. It just takes a minute to understand it all. So we're going to just load up E1M1 as a good example. My skill should probably be on 3, as I have it like set to automatically go there. Conveniently set up with what's X and all that. As you see, there's our blood. As you see, not the biggest difference in the world at all, but it is more visible. You definitely can tell there's more blood than there was before. You know, it's just a few particles difference. Not really the biggest difference in the world at all. Like, I would never really like go out of my way and make a lot of effort into this file. Like, yeah, this is really a pointless file. Like, this is a new definition of pointless, I think. Like, it's very, very simple. You know, the fact of the matter that you're getting like slightly more blood particles on the screen than you were before. Why someone even wants this, I'm not really sure. I've never really understood much of the appeal of like gore mods and stuff like that in particular, because it all plays the same. You know, the game plays exactly the same. Why do you need something more bloody, particularly? It doesn't really help much with the experience now, does it? But it's there, it's a thing. It causes slightly more projectile particles that last for 2 seconds and then disappear. As you see, the disappointing part is even like chips don't really like change or anything. It's really just for blood particles, it's just for 2 seconds. Which, like I said, really don't matter much. But yeah, that's a thing. That's exactly what this was about. So yeah, very, very, very pointless mod. It has very little influence over what we're doing grand scheme, and therefore it'd be a rather worthless video to talk about in the first place. But like I said, what is probably the more important thing about this was the whole tutorial on how to basically get a progs.dat file working. If you basically happen to have like old like DOS files on hand, you know, I'm basically talking to you as if you have like the Aftershock toolbox or some other like thing like that, or you happen to have some old like DOS files on hand to happen to like do things. Basically, the only thing I really needed from online was to basically use the mod database for the Quake C files, because I'm not even sure if like, I don't think there's any way to rip them from the game. Basically, what Carmack did was release the Quake C file separately from the game after the fact, which really stinks. You know, like I said, it should have all been combined, it should have all been together. It doesn't really make sense if you were going to release it so shortly thereafter, why you didn't just include it with the game. Like, I could understand, like, with Doom, because it took, like, years for Doom's, like, code to come out. It wasn't, like, originally intended that you would really modify it, if I'm correct. But with Quake, that was the knowledge from the get-go. Everyone knew that was going to be heavily modified. And everyone knew that that was like the whole point of it, was to modify it heavily. That's why the Quake code was released so early. So it's a really weird thing. Though I guess it also depends on the fact that originally they were thinking it could be a way of like protecting copy protection or something like that. And perhaps like it turned out to not really work too well or something like that. And so it ended up like being something that in hindsight they kind of realized was a mistake, but they couldn't fix. You definitely see with like later games, say like Unreal or something like that, you see more was done in the game itself. Like that game you could really like modify the code with nothing else but the game. And I definitely prefer something like that as opposed to needing to find resources online because you weren't given all the files. That kind of feels a little bit on the cheap side, but like I said, I think really what it comes down to is hindsight. You know, you have to remember this was like the first time there was such like a mod craze going on. I mean, it was going on for Doom, but this was like another step in the right direction. You know, this was the first time they were aware that there was going to be like such a mod craze, and so this might have just been something they overlooked at the time. You know, as with a lot of it, Quake really is a game that's not the most fun to modify for because it kind of was the start of a lot of new things, and a lot of those things weren't exactly refined even under the hood. You know, their design isn't as polished or as nice as, say, like trying to edit for like the Unreal editor or something like GTK Radiant or something more modern like that. Trying to modify for Quake is kind of a bit of a headache, but at the same time, it is easy enough if you understand what you're doing. It's just rather unintuitive, especially if you have experience with stuff later on, because it's so backwards compared to a lot of that. Like I said, specifically when it comes to like Quake, you're having like pull QC files from online, and like I said, it's convenient and whatnot because unlike almost any other mod-based game out there, you really get the full ability to like define what you want modded. This actually reminds me a lot of like more modern Elder Scrolls games or something like that, in the fact that you really can pick and match what you want in your individual game. And that's a really nice particular thing to kind of see at this point in 1996. Like I said, you know, you gotta think prior to this, they weren't really supporting modding. Like I said, for Doom, as far as I know, they weren't really supporting modding for Doom until like the community really got involved with it afterwards. So this really was like a start of a massive change. One that kind of has been going on since then and has been in like titles like The Elder Scrolls or Minecraft, whereby they support modding a lot more than you would have seen in like, you know, the early 90s. where a lot of things would be hard-coded, and they weren't exactly intending for you to modify it. And unlike modern times, they didn't have like the protection they did, where a lot of it was on the cloud, so you couldn't do it. So it was kind of like also luck of the time. That's not like modern times, whereby you couldn't do it. And that's one thing that's really nice about old games, is that you get all the files on your computer, and because of that, you get the ability to exploit all the files on your computer. Something you really just can't do with all these cloud-based games nowadays. Anyway, I'm really done here. Like I said, there's really not much to talk about besides it being the rambling video, because like I said, what the real feature of this mod was probably one of the most simplistic things of all these videos. It's really a very, very minor change. We've already seen blood and all there. It's just a particle change, and particles really are a very minor part of Quake to begin with. So I just find myself really not caring about a few extra blood particles. It's just a very minor, almost unnoticeable change. But like I said, it is there. We did see it change, and I did show how it is possible to like switch things around. And therefore, if I want this as part of the server, I could easily add this with the Multiskin compatibility. All very nice and just little extra little features. Anyway, not really much more to say. I've just kind of been rambling. Thank you all for watching. It's been an adventure, and I shall see you all, well, I guess next time.